Hey, it's Howie Mandel, and I am inviting you to witness history as me and my Howie Do It gaming team take on Gilly the King and Wallow 267's $1 million gaming in an epic global gaming league video game showdown. 4 rounds, multiple games, 1 winner, plus a halftime performance by multi-platinum artist Travie McCoy. Watch all the action and see who wins and advances to the championship match against Neo right now at globalgamingleague.com. That's globalgamingleague.com. Everybody games.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Time is here. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, and we're still in Friday the 13th 3D. Greetings and salutations, Internet peoples. This is Patrick Hamilton coming at you from the Outer Banks of the Los Angeles County area. And welcome to the Kill by Kill podcast. And of course, here we examine the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We unpack the gory details of every hack, slash, and decapitation in the hopes that a character's untimely end is just the beginning of the discussion about them. And I have brought to you the best person in the entire world to talk about horror movies with, and that is the one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing, Gina?
I'm dying. It's very hot here. It is a real feel of 112 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
With a humidity index of approximately 350.
Oh, that's very specific.
I feel like I feel a little bit like Belloc looking into the Ark of the Covenant. It's everything. I live in New York. Everything smells.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's moist. Everything is incredibly unpleasant.
Oh, well, what better way to talk about the unpleasant characters of Friday the 13th Part 3D than to get into this particular mode. Let's do a quick recap of where we are in this specific moment in time. We've had 2 very grotesque characters killed right off at the top. We never really know them. We never really want to. But we have a whole bevy of kids. They're not camp counselors. They're just rando kids. And in no particular order they are Chris, the designated final girl and perhaps assault victim. We got Debbie and Chuck. They are proud parents to be and our resident fuck couple for this particular movie. We have Chuck and Chili. They're a pair who are slowly morphing into permanent Cheech and Chong cosplay. We also have Rick, a sentient slab of beef with a permanent hard-on. And we also have a biker gang trio, 2/3 of which are dead. The other one, it lies unconscious in the Barn of Doom. By the way, there's a Barn of Doom. That leaves us with our subject for this particular episode, Vera and Shelley. Why don't I ask you just right off the bat, what are your feelings about this pair?
Well, I mean, Shelley, I think, is what the kids today would refer to as a fuckboy.
Please go on.
That is the guy who tries very hard to obnoxious levels to attempt to get the attention of a girl that he fancies, he admires, which would be Vera.
Yes.
So instead of, talking to her, instead of, just trying to be himself, Shelley's a prankster. He's a fun guy. No, he's really not fun. He's very sarcastic. He doesn't seem to understand why people think that you pretending to be injured is a wacky fun prank to play on your friends. He's very much, if you looked up schlub in the dictionary, it would be a picture of Shelley.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's, to his credit, if such a thing is possible, he's aware of his limitations. He knows that he's not going to get anybody on his looks. He knows he's not going to get anybody on his personality. So maybe he's going to try his wacky sense of humor, which is at about the 12-year-old boy level. I mean, he is about maybe minutes away from just doing armpit farts to to get Vera's attention, and she's not having it.
I would respect him more if he went to armpit farts. In fact, about the only time I do respect him is when he's juggling, because he's demonstrating a legitimate skill that other people do not possess. Whereas the vast majority of time, he is self-deprecating to the point where he's basically cornering you into hating him at an active level, because he certainly doesn't like himself. So why would you engage in that? And then the other element that is sort of part and parcel with his practical jokehood, and this becomes its own subgenre within the Friday the 13th movies, and that is the person who is so ensconced in liking horror films that they themselves create horror movie props for the horror movie that they're in.
And that's an interesting observation, because these characters are always awful, and it kind of makes you wonder what exactly horror movie writers and directors think of their fans. Because, like, do you remember a movie called Fade to Black?
Oh yes, of course. It'll never see the light of day, but I remember it vividly.
It was to an extreme, but I feel like that it would actually be an interesting remake in the era of extreme, frightening fandom.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of is a, to say the least, unflattering portrayal of people who are obsessed with horror movies. It's always unflattering.
It doesn't come off well, particularly with the way that they introduce it to people. And Shelley is one of those trickster characters who is constantly trying to pull one on everyone. And I understand the idea from a screenwriting standpoint. You have a character who cries wolf several times, and it's always a joke. It's always a joke until it's not. But part of that is that the joke has to be good.
Right.
And I don't know, with the exception of like the one mask scare that happens in maybe part 5, where Rudy the Reckless gets scared by Tommy Loomis with the alien mask. That's the only time that it seems like it's playful or he's demonstrating why he likes it or whatnot. Whereas Shelley has arrived to this group trip to a cabin in the woods with not one, but 2 fucking masks.
Yeah, he's got like a case of like supplies, and it's just like, you came prepared to harass these people and give them a hard time. And, who thinks of, and these people, these aren't like, high school students. I mean, I guess they're supposed to be in their early 20s. And
I was just going to ask you, why do these people hang out?
Yeah.
Because I don't see how this dynamic works. They're not connected they never say like, well, we got to get back to school. Like, we all know one another because we're on the same dorm floor or whatever, or we all work together. They're just, one person had a van and Chris has a cabin that she was sexually assaulted at. And she's like, come on, everybody, pile in this stoner van. We're all going to go revisit the worst moment of my entire life. Well, they all show up.
And you could see, like, the reasoning in someone saying, oh, well, let me bring, 12 cases of Bud Light, or let me bring the 36 pack of Trojans. But it doesn't occur to you to let me bring my favorite supplies to play pranks on people, because I'm 22 years old and I'm still, slipping whoopee cushions under people's chairs and shaking hands with the buzzer thingy, because that's hilarious. People love that kind of thing.
It's a real golden ticket inside somebody's pants. And I've never seen it work, and it sure as shit does not work for Shelley in this movie, beyond his constant whining and crying. Everyone else went skinny dipping, but that's fine for them. I can't skinny dip, or whatever the fuck he says, just body shaming himself. I may have said this before. There's a million of Shelley getting laid right now.
Totally.
The only thing that's holding Shelley back is Shelley and bringing a wetsuit and spear gun to a fun weekend in the fucking woods.
He basically admits that he has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
So, but he wants to make sure that people still pay attention to him. So he's going to just play these awful pranks that nobody seems to enjoy. And you would think at some point that someone would sit down and say, Shelley, that's not working out for you.
Vera tries to do that. She legit, when he goes, hey, I like you and I think you like me, and she just shuts it down by putting her finger on his lips. And that might be emasculating, but it is not as if Shelley is not asking for it.
No.
So, she goes, hey, listen, we can discuss this, but I want to let you know we will not be engaging in any sexual activity in the near future. And I'm going to try to hold your hand through not being such a genuine gold-plated asshole. But first I'm going to go outside. And his reaction when she saunters out the door is to call her a bitch. Which again, why in the world does anyone care for this character?
I mean, you put up with an annoying friend, and then you get to be about 17 or 18, and you're like, you know what? Look me up when you've grown up a little bit. There's no reason. I mean, I can see if it was his van that they were using, or if it was his cabin, but he didn't have to be there. He shouldn't have been there. Even Ned from part 1, it was a weird dynamic with him and Jack and Jack's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But it was that third wheel guy, which a lot of friendships end up that way, where he sort of has, a crush on the friend's girlfriend, but they let him hang around anyway.
Yeah, but he's also there's not a ton of meanness. He's not a bummer. Like, he's not a bad hang. He's a goof. I don't necessarily appreciate him, teasing Brenda by threatening her with a bow and arrow on the archery range. But that's more in service of the whodunit plot of the first one.
Right.
Here, we know exactly who done it. He's the giant mongoloid creatined to a massive scale in 24 hours, lost all his hair. We know who this person is. So Shelley's character is just, he is irritating for the sake of irritation. And I don't know that his death elicits the sort of, oh, I'm so glad that he's dead, that maybe the filmmakers were hoping. Because while I might have quibbles with some of the other characters in the movie, I don't find them as horrific as Shelley specifically. Yeah,
he's definitely the first character, and there are more, but probably not quite as the audience. You don't find yourself intensely hating the characters as much as you do Shelley, but he seems like the first character that was created specifically for the audience to dislike.
And I think your theory, in the ways that you came about it, why is it the horror fan is the one who's put in the place of being an irredeemable jerk off? That really is a good question. Is that the secret feeling of those responsible for the movie? I'm doing this for a paycheck. You're a big dummy for liking it. I'm going to portray you on screen in the worst possible way. Is, I don't know, revenge to a degree?
I suppose. And of course, as fanboys so rarely do, they're not going to recognize themselves in these characters. No. So I figure, if that is the case here, that it's, it's a little, let's call it mental masturbation for the, for the screenwriters, they think of their, sort of like, Rowan in the new Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. Like nobody was going to admit that Rowan was supposed to be like them. Right. But he very obviously was. I mean, I don't think they could have predicted how badly, the male fans of the original Ghostbusters would have reacted to it. But it was definitely meant to be a dig at,
fanboy culture of a sort.
Nerdy male fans on the internet. but no one would recognize that that's supposed to be them.
Yeah. And to their credit, that sort of crazy loner that not everyone else truly enjoys, who seems powerless, who then decides to display power in a crazy way. That's a trope from very long back in all sorts of genres. It's just all the more pointed because of the way dipshits had to react to the horrid idea that a studio would want to cash the check that's sitting on their desk that says Ghostbusters on it. There's sorry, kids, there's like a million ways that movie could have gone horribly wrong and reflected in all sorts of ways badly against the original. This movie isn't it. It's a funny comedy. I finally got to see it after coming back from Spain. It is a funny comedy. I laughed all the way through it. Is it the greatest comedy that there has ever been? No, but there's only one greatest comedy that has ever been. Shouldn't really stop people from attempting comedy. And those are fun characters and those are funny actresses. And sorry, kids, if you didn't like it, not everyone has to like everything, but you also don't have to be an asshole about it.
Prepare yourself with the angry emails. They're coming.
You know what? I don't think there's a defense for it. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. I'm sure there are people who are somewhat turned off to our attitude towards Friday the 13th, that we don't hold it as some sort of empirical good or this wonderful shining city on the hill. We like these movies, but they're not above reproach. There's lots of weird elements to them that if you talk about them long enough become weirdly evident.
To circle back around, I would definitely buy Shelley as the type of guy who would say that that the new Ghostbusters ruined his childhood.
When we get a reboot of Friday the 13th, which they are now preparing as we record this, that if it comes out and it sucks, it's probably going to be in line with a great many Friday the 13th movies that suck. Let's connect this right back to Shelley, because what Shelley has is that unique thing. And I think what brings out the visceral reaction to him is that you've either been a Shelley or known a Shelley in your life. And it's incredibly frustrating. You just want to shake him and go, knock it off. He has this attitude when he's confronted with being an asshole. He says, being a jerk is better than being nothing.
Which, incorrect.
No, that is not true. You are not bequeathed hot sex with Vera simply by your location of penis near her. And it's that same air of privilege and cluelessness that makes these things so frustrating in other avenues. And so it sort of crystallizes within this particular character.
I'm not sure. I mean, yet it happens so often that people will just, let's face it, it usually tends to be men who
yes.
choose I'm unhappy with myself for whatever reason. Ergo, rather than trying to improve what I'm unhappy with myself about, which, to be fair, is easier said than done, they will simply turn it around and lash out at other people and project their own fears and insecurities and, why should I be nice to you? You don't like me. And it gets very, it's sort of like the 5 stages of death where, initially it's like, oh, well, he's just a little insecure. And then it becomes, well, this is exasperating. And then, you get to number 5, which is like, this is infuriating. Get the fuck out of my face, because I'm not here to help you work through your self-esteem issues.
Yeah. It gets very tiring to hold someone's hand through basic human interaction. And Vera's attempting it here. I think she can see a sad person inside of the I need to make fun and merriment of Shelley's exterior. And she's going to attempt to crack that shell open, but she's never going to get the chance because She's got a hot pink on hot pink outfit. She's going to get out there on the dock and just gather her thoughts. This poor woman who's been shit upon by almost every character since she's entered frame, including us because we've barely talked about her because she's barely given anything to do but get abuse heaped upon her.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what they never really quite clarified what she's doing there either. You are right that this is like some sort of odd pre-Craigslist sort of way of, I'm driving this van to this cabin out in the middle of the woods. Anybody want to come along? Sure. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to spend a weekend out in the middle of nowhere with people I have just met. Because that's not going to be something. I mean, even if you don't end up, spoiler, dead with a what do you call? Oh my God! What is the thing that's used against Vera? The name of the weapon?
Oh, was it the spear? The spear from the spear gun?
Yeah, when that's not even like what would come up. Just the all manner of awkward and horrifying things that could happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but on the other hand, I guess it's sort of like when you see how many movies in the 70s involve people hitchhiking. That, maybe it is plausible that a bunch of people who have nothing better to do with their summer just decide for the hell of it to hang out in a cabin in the woods with a bunch of people they don't really know.
None of them have anything that draws them together. The stoners love to get high, but not anyone else really has a genuine desire to get high for the most part, with the exception of Chuck. Chuck's like, hey, what the hell? My girlfriend's pregnant. Why don't I smoke up right in her face? Because we haven't decided that that's a bad thing. Only if you eat it.
That was still from the era where, you could sit up front in your mom's car, and if she had to hit the brakes really hard, she would just throw her arm across your chest and somehow it would keep you flinging through the windshield.
Oh, my wife still does this to me. I go, you gotta stop doing that. If we actually get into an accident, that's gonna end badly. I understand your desire to protect me, but that's the airbag and seatbelt's job. But it means that she cares deep down, and that's why I don't bring it up except on podcasts, that she's not here, and we'll be very surprised to hear about it. Perhaps I should cut that out.
Has the news been getting you down? I'm Megan McCardle, and I'm here to help. I'm the host of a news show from Washington Post Opinion called Reasonably Optimistic, and it's an antidote to the pessimism that's riddling America right now. Every Wednesday, I'm going to talk to people who see a path forward.
It does seem to me that there is some awakening of a desire to act together, to solve problems where they are.
I am a believer in America, and that's worth fighting for.
Join me Wednesdays on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
So anyways, I don't remember exactly how. Oh, Vera ends up with Shelley's wallet after the incident with the gang at the second store that we're treated to the inside of in Crystal Lake for no particular reason. And she discovers it in the little pocket of her first hot pink piece of clothing and decides to examine its contents. And that is where we see Shelley and his mom or
it's his mom, which
or Zadie,
which was, as we pointed out a few episodes ago, is named Mrs. Finkelstein. I'm not sure why the person who created the wiki for this thought it was necessary to clarify that a character whose last name, well, any character, their last name, that their mother would be Mrs. last name. I presume that your mother is Mrs. Hamilton.
You would presume correctly. Well, that
how
is,
these things work.
That is supposing that she is actually his mother. And what I'm wondering the last time I watched it, if perhaps that isn't his grandmother.
And I am betting that Mrs. Finkelstein loves his jokes.
Oh, he's just so sweet.
She thinks he's going to be a comedian someday. You watch, you're going to see him on the Tonight Show.
She just grabs that cheek and just holds on for dear life that he'll make something out of his miserable life. And here's the good news is he cleans his plate every night.
And she pats his curly little head and say, "Oh, honey, get a haircut."
So while she's examining said wallet, I believe, or around this point, is when he emerges from the murky depths of the shallowest part of Crystal Lake.
He somehow how did this happen?
I don't know.
How did he teleport? Because she walked out of the cabin onto the dock and suddenly he's there underwater. How did that happen?
In a full wetsuit with a spear gun and a hockey mask on. So he has a wetsuit, but he didn't bring, something to breathe with, but he's wearing a hockey mask. I mean, it makes no sense, Gina.
No, it doesn't. And I've never personally put on a wetsuit, but I understand it is a difficult process that takes several minutes and a considerable amount of baby powder. So I am dubious, unless he had it on under his clothes, which would explain why he was so grouchy. I mean, I can't imagine.
I'm not going to put it past him.
How confining it would be to be wearing a wetsuit for several hours.
He just wants to be held. That's so wrong.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's neoprene. He wants to be held close.
He figures, well, she doesn't like my jokes. I'll just play another joke on her. This one will work for sure.
Yeah.
This is the point where the audience is thinking, okay, when's he going to die? When's he going to die? When's he going to die?
When's he going to die?
And that
give me the satisfaction of this.
And again, that might be the very first time. So, and it'll happen later, but this will be the first time where you were actively hoping that this character was going to die and die soon and die horribly.
And that's where I think the utter failure of Friday the 13th Part 3 really comes into focus, is we are given so much evidence that Shelley is asking for it in the worst way. The fickle finger of fate should point at him and something bad and graphic and crazy should happen. And it doesn't. In fact, it just kind of transfers to Vera, who I would say has on the higher end of the more memorable deaths in the movie. So let's get to that. Shelley is dismissed. He's a complete jerk. Vera loses the wallet in the water. She goes and it floats for some fucking reason because it's filled with unused condoms. It's like a wallet flotation device.
He's got some sort of calendar that like every 3 months he swaps it out because he doesn't want it to get dried out or anything. So
I have a hint for Shelley is if you don't improve that attitude, a whole lot of you is going to get dried out. That's neither here nor there. She's not an asshole.
This one's going to be used for sure.
She's not a total jerk. She drops someone else's property in the water and she immediately tries to fish it out. That's what a good person Vera is. So while she is trying to extricate this ridiculously stupid Velcro wallet from the depths of Camp Crystal Lake, or actually the tops of it.
And you know that such a thing existed at the time. Shelley unironically would have the wallet that says "bad motherfucker" on it.
And nothing quite says bad motherfucker like a dirty Vans Velcro wallet. So this is the momentous occasion that we've all been waiting for, where Jason Voorhees shows up in the hockey mask for the very first time. So let's just, I guess, quickly talk about that iconography, since we use it as our very own logo. And it took 2.5 movies to find something that really makes Jason scary beyond the mere concept of him.
I mean, I would love to know if that was always what they eventually intended. I'm not sure why the burlap sack no longer worked out for him. Or why he was particularly worried about scaring people with what his face looked like, because if he was going to kill them anyway, I'm not sure why he felt it was necessary to hide his face.
Well, I think they're trying to save that for some grand reveal, since it's been a grand reveal in 1 and 2.
And that happens several times. Someone always, either he takes his mask off, like, woo, look at this, or it gets knocked off, or
a psychic makes it explode.
Yeah, and like, squeezes brain juice out of his head and all, and there, the next hashtag brain juice, or hashtag, should be hashtag RIP Shelley.
Yes. Well, I don't know that I don't know that he deserves that piece, because he didn't really bring it to anyone else's life. I will say that probably the reason they changed from the sack to something else is the sack is a direct ripoff from The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Well, right.
And it looks cooler there. And so if you're trying to make something that has its own iconography, stealing someone else's really doesn't help. Although it's more realistic. But
I would love to imagine them just walking through like a Model sporting goods and just like looking at, well, can we try a catcher's mask? No. How about a fencing mask? That would look kind of fancy, wouldn't it? And then they just eventually just settle on a hockey mask.
Yeah. Supposedly it's one of several masks that they had. And half a dozen people on the cast and crew have stated that they were the ones who proposed it, or that they're the ones who, said, oh, you should pay attention to that hockey mask. So who's to really say? Regardless, it does work. And it specifically works with this version of Jason because he's this giant hulking mass now.
Yeah.
In the 24 hours since the last film. When he comes
like just kind of slowly striding out onto the dock, I feel like they should be playing like the opening bars of Iron Man.
Or as they do in a later film, have him throw a dagger at the screen a la James Bond.
It's just he's sort of badass in this part, because he's like taking his time and
well, you actually get to see him, whereas in other places he's only a shadow or something that ducks out of the way. This is the first full view of him, really, that we get.
He's enormous. I mean, his legs alone look longer than my entire body from head to toe. And again, he roided out. He grew about 6 inches in height, and he is massive. He looks like a bar bouncer. and I gotta say, in this is another, much like how did Shelley get into the water so fast? This is another thing where they kind of, the time is a little funky and doesn't really make sense. So Shelley runs off, and Jason appears minutes later with the mask. So in that minute or two that Vera is waiting around the water to get Shelley's mask, Shelley's wallet rather, that's apparently when Jason slashes Shelley's throat, takes the mask, and yeah, this'll do. All right, I like this. Somehow manages to fit it over his head, even though his head is twice the size of Shelley's, counting the Jufro.
Yeah.
And this, again, it's just, that's one of those things where if you watch it enough times, you think, it doesn't really make any sense, but,
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It just begins to become compounded with this particular kill, because as very epic as his introduction is, he then positions himself behind a pole, a light pole, and holds the spear gun that Shelley had in front of the pole. And I know why they're doing this, because the gag of that spear is running along a wire. But it's ridiculous to try and shoot somebody from behind a pole with a hockey mask on, and you got one good eye. And the good eye is behind the pole.
And of course, she thinks it's Shelley. Which, come on, I mean, stop.
It's not that far away.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not body shaming Shelley, but Shelley and Jason don't have the same body type in a lot of ways.
Right, and she's just like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing? Hey!" And it's like, come on, let's. and I think, and I'm actually rewatching the scene now. So he launches the spear gun right into her eye.
Yes.
And then he turns around and just slowly walks to the back up the dock. He's very methodic in this one. And again, we talked about how his MO seems to change from movie to movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like in part 2, he was sort of feral and traveled, but yet could still travel far away.
Yes.
At least
he's devious enough to track someone down in who the fuck knows town that Alice lives, but at the end of the movie is so stupid he's fooled by a sweater.
And and he's living in a shack with a toilet in the middle of the living room, and he collects
toilet. Do you mean that toilet?
Yes, that toilet.
Yes.
So yeah, but this one he's very slow. He's very, sort of, like I said, he's oddly kind of a badass, and then eventually he's just like this shambling monster where he cannot be. He's like the Terminator. He can't be reasoned with. He can't be stopped. Here he's just sort of, I'm just gonna stride right up, shoot this chick with this spear gun, go in, chop this guy in half with this other weapon I just happen to find laying around. Because apparently,
why rush? No one's going anywhere.
Apparently in summer camps, it's quite common to have spear guns and machetes laying around. It is a very well equipped camp, but there's no spare set of swim trunks so Shelley can go fucking swimming with the rest of the team.
Yeah, they blew all their budget on weapons of slicing destruction. Like, if Jason didn't come along and kill these people, someone was bound to, because there's just so many fucking sharp instruments around that even a local biker gang is like, maybe we should go kill them. They just got a lot of weapons around. But Jason is a badass, but he's also not great with details, because Shelley's the second person he walks away from who's not quite dead.
That's true.
We're going to come back to Axel later, but Axel is also not quite dead. So he's this massive, hulking, super strong, indestructible force of nature who's like not really big on checking whether or not somebody's breathing after he's tried to kill them. Like, I sliced his throat. Like, he's pretty much dead.
Oh, he is dead. I killed the shit out of him. He's totally dead. He's so fucking dead.
He's not going anywhere. He's fine. So she gets it right in the eye with that spear gun. And I think the end result, as ludicrous as the setup is, the end result, I think, is reasonably effective as far as a magic trick and an image goes. But like everything else with Shelley, he doesn't know when to fucking quit. And he somehow stumbles around for a good 15 to 20 minutes worth of time within the movie with his throat slashed wildly open. I mean, not a little petite, Friday the 13th part 1 style throat slash. This is a giant, man who laughed sort of gash across his entire throat.
His head's about to fall off. He sort of reminds me of Sin City when Clive Owen is driving Benicio del Toro's body around.
Yes.
And he does that really creepy where he's talking and then like his head kind of swings back and like opens up the wound in his throat and like his voice gets like higher in pitch, and it's a really skin crawling scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shelley is, like I said, if you flicked his forehead, his head would just come right off.
So we are now down to the choose your own death venture moment here on the Kill by Kill podcast. Gina Radcliffe, would you rather die from a spear to the eye or a giant, and I mean giant, slash to the throat?
Oh, totally the spear gun. She flails a little bit and then she's gone. And really, I don't want to be associated in any way with being like Shelley, being a Shelley-esque character. So yeah, I would have to, and again, who knows how long he was staggering around, and again, nobody believes him, so nobody tries to help him. Not that there would be any saving him anyway, but
yeah. There's a lot of reap what you sow in his death.
And you get that he just died alone, unloved, unlaid, and who really wants to go out like that? You know what?
I'm sure there probably is somebody, but I don't know that person, at least not yet, and I'm not judging. But oh boy,
the only one that's missing him is Mrs. Finkelstein.
Yes, she is. Let's pour one out for Mrs. Finkelstein. Well, I would agree with you. I want that spear gun bolt to the brain because, like, she's there and then she is gone. And that's fine with me. I also do not want to be associated and Shelley beyond talking about him on a podcast. And so that brings us to the end of yet another Kill by Kill. Before we go, Gina Radcliffe, how can people see what you do on the internet?
I write about 70s and 80s television at tuneintonight.wordpress.com.
Wonderful. Hey, do you want to talk to us? There's a couple ways you can do it. First of all, we have a Facebook group. Join that Facebook group and we can talk about all sorts of things Friday the 13th related. Things are kind of heating up in the moments before a reboot, really hits the ground. Why not be part of the conversation at the Facebook group? Let's get that going. You want to just send us a message about Shelley, about any episode or Friday the 13th question? Email us at killbykillpod@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at killbykillpod. That brings us to the end of yet another episode. Thank you so much for your time, Gina.
My pleasure as always.
And with that, we say adieu, people. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Kill by Kill is produced by We Write Good and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Friday the 13th is owned by Paramount Pictures. Jason is owned by New Line Cinema. No infringement is intended. Kill by Kill logo was designed by Josh Hollis. Visit him at joshhollis.com. The Kill by Kill theme was created exclusively for us by Revenge Body. Get the whole track and much, much more at revengebodymemphis.bandcamp.com today.
Hey, it's Howie Mandel, and I am inviting you to witness history as me and my Howie Do It gaming team take on Gilly the King and Wallow 267's $1 million gaming in an epic global gaming league video game showdown. 4 rounds, multiple games, 1 winner, plus a halftime performance by multi-platinum artist Travie McCoy. Watch all the action and see who wins and advances to the championship match against Neo right now at globalgamingleague.com. That's globalgamingleague.com. Everybody games.
When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.